going to face from the Republicans?
Well, I think there's something of that. On the other hand, remember what Abe Lincoln said about the Democrats. They sound like they're cats fighting in the night, but when you wake up in the morning, they're just making more Democrats. And I suspect that's what we're really doing. But I think this will be behind us as we finally head toward a nomination. And I think it'll be another few weeks before we really know who that nominee is going to be.
If Governor Clinton should win today in Illinois and win today in Michigan, is he all but secured the nomination?
Well, it's going to be a big boost for him. On the other hand, as you recall from 1988, I had a very good Super Tuesday, and then I got creamed in Illinois and beaten decisively by Jesse Jackson in Michigan, and we didn't get back on track until we got to Wisconsin. So this is a long one, and it's a long-distance run, but obviously if he does well today, it's going to be a major boost for him.
Size up the candidates, if you would, right now. Give us a sense of where you see their strengths and weaknesses at this point of the campaign. Clinton, for instance.
Well, I think the two strong ones are obviously Bill Clinton and Paul Tsongas, two very tough, focused, very able people, obviously two very different personalities, as I think we've seen, but I think both of them deserve a tremendous amount of credit for doing what they've been able to do. Paul came from nowhere when nobody thought he could do it and has turned himself into a very strong and I think attractive and viable candidate. Bill Clinton went through what has to be one of the toughest 6-week periods any candidate has ever gone through, and he's not only still on his feet, but seems to be getting stronger, not weaker as time goes on. So either one of these men will be a very formidable nominee. I think either one of them can beat George Bush and beat him decisively, and we'll just have to see what the voters say today and the weeks to come.
On Clinton, for instance, though, there are some who are surprised that he's managed to survive and thrive in this race. Gary Hart was knocked out for sexual allegations a few years back, in '88 to be specific. And Joe Biden was knocked out of a race before that because he lifted some words from somebody else's speeches. I mean, there are allegations against Clinton that go far beyond that. Are you surprised that he's managed to do as well as he has?
Bill is a very tough and a very resourceful person. Remember, he's been in some very tough fights back in Arkansas. He fights back. I must say he's doing it more effectively than the guy named Mike Dukakis did it in the last few months of the 1988 campaign, and I think he deserves credit for that. I'm not surprised that he's been able to do this, and I think it's a measure of the man. On the other hand, it hasn't been easy for Paul Tsongas either. I mean, there was a time 6 or 8 months ago when people said, what's he doing? He hasn't got a shot at this. It was a very lonely quest, and he was the guy that was out there contesting for this when nobody else would. So I think you've got two very disciplined, very focused, and very able people in this race, Mike, and I think either one of them would be a darn good nominee.
On the subject of Tsongas, though, I'm sure you've heard him say this. When attacked, he has been known to say, this is one Greek-American from Massachusetts who fights back. How do you feel when you hear that?
Well, look, we did not do a very good job of dealing with the Bush attack campaign, and that's a fact, and I regret it. I think if I had done a better job, I might be talking to you from the Oval Office, not from some other place. And although we should have done much better, I think it's very important that Paul and Bill and anyone who's running for this nomination learn from that experience. I have no doubt, Mike, that when push comes to shove, George Bush will engage in exactly the same kind of tactics against whoever our nominee is, and this time we'd better be ready. And if that means learning painfully from the lessons of 1988, then I hope we've learned that lesson, and we never sit back and let it happen as I did for weeks and weeks until it was too late.
When you hear Pat Buchanan giving heat to George Bush, do you get a sense that the president's getting a dose of his own medicine? Do you get some sort of satisfaction out of that?
Well, I must say it's kind of deliciously ironic that George Bush is complaining about racist attack ads against him. And I think it says something, frankly, about the character of George Bush. This is a guy who will do anything to get elected or reelected. And I think that's a message that we have to deliver loud and clear to the American people.
Governor, had to leave it there. Appreciate it. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Mike.
Governor Michael Dukakis from Pennsylvania for us this morning.
From the Valley's 24-hour news source, this is 33 Eyewitness News, the Morning Report.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jerry Ricciuti. This is the Morning Report for Tuesday, St. Patrick's Day. Although forecasters are calling for rain later on, we're getting some snow right now, about 2 inches of it since 4 this morning. Do be careful on area roads. They are snow-covered and very slippery. Already, local police have their hands full dealing with accidents, most of them being fender benders or cars sliding off the roadway. We'll have the first weather forecast for you in just a bit. In the news this morning, with the race for the Democratic nomination for president well underway, former candidate Michael Dukakis is keeping to himself when it comes to supporting a candidate. The former Massachusetts governor was the keynote speaker last night at Westminster College in New Wilmington for the school's mock Democratic convention. Dukakis told his audience both Bill Clinton and Paul Tsongas, who's also from Massachusetts, could become president, but he won't say who he's voting for. Before he left the area this morning, Dukakis was a guest on ABC's Good Morning America, live from New Wilmington this morning.
Now let's get on to presidential politics today. All three Democratic candidates, Bill Clinton, Paul Tsongas, and Jerry Brown, continued campaign sweeps across Michigan and Illinois. Both states have their primaries, as you know, tomorrow. Joining us live now from Westminster College in New Wilmington, right outside of Newcastle, is former Massachusetts governor and presidential candidate Michael Dukakis. Governor, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Don.
Let me ask you this. The latest polls show Paul Tsongas trailing Bill Clinton by 20 points in Illinois, closer to 30 in Michigan. He faces possibly a third-place finish in Michigan. Would that be the end of the Tsongas campaign?
No, I don't think so, Don. Remember, I had a very good Super Tuesday in 1988, and then I got absolutely creamed in Illinois, and Jesse Jackson beat me in Michigan. And I had two very, very bad weeks, and yet I came back in Wisconsin, won in New York and then in Pennsylvania, and went on to win the nominations. So this is a long-distance run. I think it's going to go for several more weeks. I didn't really have that nomination locked up until after we had finished at least New York and Pennsylvania, and that wasn't until late April. And I think it'll be at least until then before we really know who our nominee is going to be.
Governor, it seems that unless Jennifer Flower drops another shoe, Bill Clinton looks like the party nominee, but there are those in your party who fear that he will be a fatally flawed nominee. Do you share that fear?
No, I really don't. I mean, I think one of the things that Bill Clinton has shown is that he can take this kind of bashing, and some of it I think has been very unfair, and yet come back strong. By the way, Tsongas is a very tough guy, too. So I think in some ways this may be a preparation for what unquestionably will be another Bush attack campaign, and I didn't handle that well at all. This time, I hope, with the lessons that we learned in 1988, whoever our nominee is will be ready for that. I think we will be, and I think we're going to go on to victory in November. But we've got to be ready for that kind of thing, and in an interesting kind of way, I think maybe Clinton has shown that he can not only take one punch, he can take 4 or 5.
Governor, one final quick question, if I may. Several times in this campaign, your fellow Massachusetts politician, Mr. Tsongas, has referred to himself as a Greek who will fight back, implying that you were a Greek who wouldn't fight back. Does that ever bother you somewhat?
Well, I think what bothers me is my failure to do so, Don. You know, there was no excuse for our sitting there and taking the kind of stuff that was coming at us from the Bush campaign and from Mr. Bush himself and not responding until it was too late. So unquestionably this time around, given what happened to me and to us in 1988, we've got to be ready for this. Frankly, I think we've got to turn this attack stuff into a character issue on George Bush himself. I mean, if he's willing to use race again as an issue, if he's willing to attack his opponent's patriotism, this time I think we've got to do a much more effective job of turning this back against him at the same time that we're developing and articulating a real vision for this country. And if we do that, frankly, I think we're going to beat him and beat him badly.
Governor, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time, sir. Okay. Now getting...
Well, the man who did not make it to the White House in 1988 was in Western Pennsylvania tonight. Michael Dukakis was the keynote speaker at a mock Democratic National Convention at Westminster College in New Wilmington.
Needless to say, I wish I were here in another capacity. We should have won in 1988, no question about it.
Every 4 years, Westminster holds a mock convention for the party out of power in the White House.
Well, although the Democratic convention is still several months away, a local college is getting the jump on the political process. Westminster College is hosting a mock Democratic National Convention, and this year they invited a familiar face to give the keynote address. Former Democratic presidential candidate Michael Dukakis. The purpose of the mock convention, to familiarize students with the nation's political process. It continues through Wednesday.
He was almost president 4 years ago, but now Michael Dukakis is a private citizen, still speaking out on all the public issues. Pat Alexander caught up with him in Lawrence County, where Dukakis offered his thoughts on his own failed campaign and this year's race.
From the president's home at Westminster College in New Wilmington, former Democratic presidential nominee Michael Dukakis this morning appeared live on ABC's Good Morning America.
Well, I think the two strong ones are obviously Bill Clinton and Paul Tsongas, two very tough, focused, very able people.
4 years ago, Dukakis was the Democrats' strongest candidate. Riding high in the polls, he swept to his party's presidential nomination. But by the time Dukakis came to Youngstown in October 1988, he had sunk in the polls, victim of a Bush campaign that used pictures like this to portray him as weak in military and foreign policy. That November, Bush crushed Dukakis. I asked him how it happened.
We simply did not have a strategy for dealing with a Bush attack campaign. Now, maybe we didn't anticipate it. It certainly was the most negative campaign probably in American presidential politics, but that's no excuse for not having been ready for it.
Dukakis told me he is not bitter about the presidential loss, but says he will do all he can to get Bush out of office this election year.
Using the House banking scandal as an example, Dukakis says he believes many politicians, especially those in Washington, have lost touch with reality, lost touch with the American people, people that live in small communities like here in New Wilmington.
Part of the problem here is that it's very easy to get comfortable and complacent in public office, and one of the reasons we have elections is to make sure that the folks that are comfortable and complacent either shape up or get out.
And that's why Dukakis believes George Bush is beatable in '92. But he adds the candidates must convince voters they have character and are in touch with the public's needs.
How do you articulate a message and a vision for this country when so much of this is TV sound bites? It is very tough to connect with average people.
Dukakis is now spreading the Democratic message by teaching and speaking at colleges like Westminster. He has left public office behind, but says he may make a comeback. In New Wilmington, Pat Alexander, 33, Eyewitness News.
Old Man Winter's muscle flexing this morning left behind a lot of traffic headaches. Fortunately, the snow and ice didn't cause any serious injuries. In Boardman, the driver of a Camaro slammed head-on into a tree on Maple Drive just west of South Avenue. The driver, 18-year-old Matthew Boyrocco, his brother and a friend had been on their way to school. The road had to be blocked off for about 45 minutes. Police blamed the icy roads for the accident. 2 of the teens were treated at Northside Hospital. Police all over the valley say they had dozens of fender benders and cars sliding into ditches.
Well, Stacia, the roads have certainly cleared up since early this morning, and late this afternoon came the rain.
And for those of you celebrating St. Patty's Day tonight, let's check out the forecast. Let's stand in first weather.
Well, tonight's weather shouldn't be too bad, Stacia. The rain has now passed. Most of the snow has now melted. And overnight tonight, we should actually see the clouds break up a little bit. It's not going to become totally clear, but things should break up a little bit. And tomorrow morning, we should even begin the day with a little bit of sunshine. Now, currently outdoors, it is still very cloudy. The temperature currently at 39 degrees. The winds are now from the northwest at around 6 miles an hour. The wind chill only 34. The humidity 79%. The barometer rising a little bit, though it should begin to fall here shortly. And visibility at the airport is 7 miles. Let's check out precipitation. The airport today reporting almost 3 inches of snow, 16/100ths of an inch of rain, only about an inch of snow here at the station, and only 10/100ths of an inch of rain. The official airport high today, 39 degrees, the low 29, the pollution standard index in the good range at 27. Level Meander Reservoir hardly.
This is 21 Action News at 11 with Glenn Stevens, Katie Kiefer, AccuWeather with Melissa Marsh, and Chuck Galletti on sports.
Former presidential contender Michael Dukakis says the leaders of this country lack vision.
Dukakis spoke at Westminster College in Pennsylvania tonight at a mock Democratic convention. 21's Lauren Schultz begins her report at the convention parade.
The mock convention and parade has been a tradition since 1936. They have fun and learn the ways of the world, the political world. Even the mascot has learned how to bash the competition.
President Bush! No, we don't. That was my back end speaking.
Former President Reagan made an appearance and basically backed the donkey, saying he harbors resentment toward Bush and Buchanan.
That's semi-true. Yes, I understand that George is, well, he needs me there. You know what I mean? Okay.
And the man from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue wasn't going to take that slam.
No new taxes if you vote for George Bush.
But how come we can't see your lips moving this time? Once in the auditorium, serious lobbying began. All 50 states were represented, plus Guam.
The intimidating territory of Guam is all presently accounted for.
The keynote speaker, Michael Dukakis, waited for the rallying to stop, then said a Democratic president belongs in the White House, and he supports the Democratic contenders, whoever wins. Dukakis says Bush and Buchanan deserve each other, and that the Republican Party is going morally bankrupt.
In fact, one wonders sometimes if Mr. Bush and the people around him really believe in those ideals. How else to explain the curious fact that they continue to do business and grant concessions to the government of Communist China after the leaders of that government brutally gunned down those courageous young people in Tiananmen Square not too long ago?
And later, at a press conference, a warning.
We have got to have a very clear strategy for dealing with what I can assure you will be a tough, down and dirty attack campaign. And I'm not suggesting that the way to deal with that is to throw mud at him every time he throws mud at us, but I am suggesting that it's time to turn that into a character issue on Mr. Bush himself.
He says a vision is the answer, and another 4 years with President Bush would not produce one. Lauren Schultz, 21 Action News.
And Dukakis believes if he would have won the White House in 1988, there would have been no Persian Gulf War, and the economy would have been in better shape.
Democratic Convention, but the annual Westminster College Mock Democratic Convention.
Since 1936, the small Western Pennsylvania school has hosted the event, giving students a taste of politics at its best. As Gina Marinelli reports, this year's keynote speaker is a familiar face in Democratic politics.
Former Massachusetts governor and 1988 Democratic presidential candidate Michael Dukakis was welcomed with thunderous applause from his audience of delegates. The three-day event is a replica of the National Presidential Nominating Convention. Although it's still very early in this campaign, the Democratic candidates have not been kind to one another. In fact, the Democratic National Chairman is calling for candidates Bill Clinton, Paul Tsongas, and Jerry Brown to stop taking jabs at one another. Dukakis says the Democrats have other worries.
I think that will fade as we choose a nominee. I'm much more concerned about what I know will be coming at our nominee from the other side.
Dukakis was the Democratic nominee back in 1988, and he admits he made some mistakes in his quest to the White House.
But as all of us know, one learns from one's mistakes. So I can assure you that I did not come here tonight in a tank.
Bill Clinton is favored to win in the Michigan primary, but Tsongas says he'll continue to move forward. Dukakis isn't endorsing anyone right now, saying both men are equally qualified.
Each of them is a very strong, focused, committed person, and either one of them, in my judgment, can beat George Bush for President of the United States.
And the students? Well, Carrie Wirtz, a Texas delegate, says she's for Clinton because they both share the same ideals.
I think health care is a big issue. I think education is an issue. I think the federal deficit has to be taken care of. But I think health care is going to be one of the big ones.
The convention will run through Wednesday, complete with a parade and the presidential nomination. For Newswatch 27, I'm Gina Marinelli.
A man who is no stranger to presidential politics is keeping quiet on his vote for the Democratic nomination. As Naomi Rich reports, Michael Dukakis was in the Shenango Valley tonight, giving students his views of the '92 campaign.
Westminster College tonight was transformed from a campus to the floor of the Democratic National Convention, with hundreds of students acting as state delegates and campaign managers.
This is my brother Darrell and my other brother Darrell. And we are from Vermont.
This is the 56th year the college has hosted a mock national convention. Keynote speaker tonight, 1988 presidential candidate and former Massachusetts governor Michael Dukakis, who says although he's got great respect for the president, couldn't help but jab him a little too.
On the other hand, I have never, ever thrown up all over the Japanese primary.
Dukakis says he isn't endorsing any candidate and wouldn't reveal his vote in the Massachusetts primary.
Unless there is some dramatic or an unanticipated event or series of events that it's rapidly coming down to a contest between Bill Clinton and Paul Tsongas. I know them both. I think the world of both of them. They're different people, different personalities, different backgrounds. Each of them is a very strong, focused, committed person. And either one of them, in my judgment, can beat George Bush for President of the United States.
As far as mudslinging, just last night in Chicago, candidates Jerry Brown and Bill Clinton attacked each other verbally during a debate. Brown saying Clinton was funneling money to his wife's law firm. Clinton saying Brown should pack up his tent and go home. Dukakis says campaigning is dirty sometimes, but you've got to be prepared to retaliate. He also says smear campaigns between Democratic candidates will fade.
We did it. I tried very hard to keep my primary campaign as positive as I could. Now, where did we make the great mistake in assuming in the final that we could continue to try to maintain that positive tone and not be hurt by the kinds of stuff that were coming at us from Bush? And frankly, that was my fault, nobody else's.
Finally, Dukakis thanked the crowd for having him and wished them well, saying there will be a Democratic president in the White House in 1993. In New Wilmington, Naomi Rich, 33, Eyewitness News, Nightcast.
Westminster College, located in the small borough of New Wilmington, Pennsylvania, the home of many great traditions, religious, academic, athletic. But this week marks the tradition that has been remembered since 1936, for 56 years, as the 14th National Mock Convention begins at Westminster College. The founder of the Mock Convention, Mr. Thomas V. Mansell, continues to reside in New Wilmington. He originated the idea back in 1936, after first graduating from Westminster in 1929, then attended law school at Harvard Law School. He was an instructor at Westminster College, teaching American government, when he made his suggestions.
I went to Harvard Law School, and when I got up there, I found there, in the house where we roomed, there were about 7 or 8 fellows, and 2 of them were from Oberlin, graduated from Oberlin. This was their second year, my first year, and all they talked about was the mock convention that they held at Oberlin, and what a good time they had, and some of the problems they had, and it sounded quite exciting, and so I started then to ask some questions about it, thinking maybe someday I could use it, or I didn't know what, but at any rate, they explained how they carried it out and so on, and that's what got me interested to start with. And then when I came back here and they wanted me to teach history or government, why, the idea along about 1936 came to me, why don't we try that? I think I talked or corresponded with one of my roommates from Oberlin to get some more details, and so I suggested to students that it sounded very exciting the way the Oberlin people had done it. Would they like to try it?
I'm an old 77 gymnasium on the Westminster College campus, best known for 77 consecutive home victories for the Westminster Titan basketball team. But this old gymnasium is also the site of the beginning of another great Westminster College tradition, that of the Mock Convention. The National Mock Convention held every 4 years except for 1944 on a Westminster College campus. The original Mock Convention held right here. Platform set in the center of the old 77 gymnasium, and the spectators from New Wilmington, they had to pay 50 cents apiece to come in and see this event in Old 77.
The look of the convention has changed, but the enthusiasm for the convention once it begins has not.
Those who were skeptical about the thing are usually the most enthusiastic when they participate and find that they're doing the real thing. They're voting for actual people. And this convention could count for something.
Until 1956, all the conventions were Republican. After that time, the convention was held for the party out of power to create a more exciting event. The yearbooks remind us that past participants will remember a lot of fun, but Mansell points out some conventioneers took the matter very seriously.
He was not in the crowd. There was always several factions, and he couldn't get to be head man of any of them, so, but he made a nuisance of himself. So they went down, actually this happened, went to the sheriff. He went to the sheriff, he says, they're going to kidnap me, and I need protection. So the sheriff told him, he said, well, we'll provide, you just give us a call if you think anything is going to happen, and we'll be right up there. Well, in those days, the sheriff didn't do much of criminal work anyway, but he got him, and he became later quite a prominent lawyer in Jackson, Mississippi.
In the 1950s, the convention moved to Memorial Fieldhouse, its present location, just in time to vote for Dwight D. Eisenhower as the Republican nominee. Regardless of location, the benefits remained the same.
I think that it was a great thing for them to know just actually what was going on, how it was done. I'll trade you so many votes for the vice president if you give me so many for president, stuff like that. And then when it was all over, they knew a heck of a lot more than they knew when they went into it. And I was thinking about that the other day, that they really absorbed an awful lot of knowledge, information, in a comparatively short period of time. As I said, those who were skeptical eventually came over and participated, and I can't tell you how many of them have come to me afterwards and said that is the greatest thing we ever had at Westminster.
And how long should the tradition of this mock convention that started in 1936 here in this gymnasium continue?
As long as they have a substantial number of the students that are willing to participate and spend their money on it, then I think they ought to do it, because it's a learning process with a lot of fun involved in it. That's about it.
The fun and the learning continues tonight at the home of the second oldest mock national convention, Westminster College in New Wilmington. For Cable 9, I'm Dave Varner.
Make a comeback. In New Wilmington, Pat Alexander, 33, Eyewitness News.
Old Man Winter's muscle flexing this morning left behind a lot of traffic headaches. Fortunately, the snow and ice didn't cause any serious injuries. In Boardman, the driver of a Camaro slammed head-on into a tree on Maple Drive just west of South Avenue. The driver, 18-year-old Matthew Boy-Rocco, his brother and a friend had been on their way to school. The road had to be blocked off for about 45 minutes. Police blamed the icy roads for the accident. 2 of the teens were treated at Northside Hospital. Police all over the valley say they had dozens of fender benders and cars sliding into ditches.
Well, Stacia, the roads have certainly cleared up since early this morning, and late this afternoon came the rain.
And for those of you celebrating St. Patty's Day tonight, let's check out the forecast. Let's stand in first weather.
Well, tonight's weather shouldn't be too bad, Stacia. The rain has now passed. Most of the snow has now melted. And overnight tonight, we should actually see the clouds break up a little bit. It's not going to become totally clear, but things should break up a little bit. And tomorrow morning, we should even begin the day with a little bit of sunshine. Now, currently outdoors, it is still very cloudy. The temperature currently at 39 degrees. The winds are now from the northwest at around 6 miles an hour. The wind chill only 34. The humidity 79%. The barometer rising a little bit, though it should begin to fall here shortly. And visibility at the airport is 7 miles. Let's check out precipitation. The airport today reporting almost 3 inches of snow, 16/100ths of an inch of rain, only about an inch of snow here at the station, and only 10/100ths of an inch of rain. The official airport high today, 39 degrees, the low 29, the pollution standard index in the good range at 27. Level of Meander Reservoir hardly moving at all. In fact, it is only up 1/10 of an inch from yesterday. It brings the capacity, or the percent of the capacity of the reservoir, to 41.2%. The record book looks like this: the high 69, the low 11, normals are 44 and 26. The view from the satellite tonight showing plenty of cloud cover streaming its way from the southwest right toward the state of Ohio. And even though you can't see it all that well, in the extreme northwest corner of Ohio, things are already beginning to break up a little bit. Both Findlay and Toledo reporting partly cloudy skies. You can see the clearer skies up over the state of Michigan. High pressure sitting right over there. That is what will clear things up tonight. The cold front well to the south of Ohio now, though still plenty of cold air coming in from the northern portions of the United States. National radar tonight showing the heaviest precipitation and most severe weather down over parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and into Texas. In fact, the area that you see boxed in red is where all the severe weather is expected throughout the night tonight. Portions of western Texas expected even tornado activity. As far as our area, there are a band of thunderstorms showing up now over parts of central West Virginia. This is right along that cold front I just showed you a moment ago. Charleston looks as if it's getting some heavy storms, as are other parts of central West Virginia. All of Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, and Michigan are all dry tonight. Now, Let's get in for the next couple of days here. A little bit hard to explain because a lot of different things could happen. Tomorrow morning we should start out with some sunshine, partly cloudy skies. Temperature tomorrow should get at least to 40 degrees. But this whole system will begin to move to the east and the front will slide to the north. As it does that, we could see a slight chance of rain tomorrow afternoon, and then tomorrow night, with the temperature expected to be right around the freezing point, we could get either rain or snow, and then that chance of rain or snow continuing into Thursday as well. It's all going to be temperature driven over the next couple of days, and since it's going to hover right around the freezing point, I'm going to hold off making a commitment on the rain or the snow probably until at least tomorrow. We'll see how the temperatures ride, and we should have a better indication tomorrow at 6 on which way it'll go. Guaranteed we're going to see some precipitation out of it over the next couple of days. Hard to tell at this point, though, whether it is going to be rain or snow. No precipitation, though, really expected until probably tomorrow night. Overnight tonight, cloudy skies, some clearing later on tonight. Temperature 25 to 30 degrees. During the overnight hours, partly cloudy skies, the temperature all the way down into the low 20s. Tomorrow morning, partly cloudy skies, 35 degrees. Just a slight chance of some rain tomorrow afternoon. The temperature up to around 40, and then tomorrow night, a good chance of rain or snow, with the temperature right between 30 and 35 degrees. Our head of the night tonight is appropriate for St. Patrick's Day. It comes from the Visa Lounge, which is an Irish bar located in the south side of Youngstown on Powers Way Avenue, real close to Poland Avenue. They are having a big party down there tonight. As a matter of fact, when I called to let them know their hat was going to be on, I could barely hear the person on the other end of the telephone talking to me. So hats off tonight and happy St. Patrick's Day to all the people at the Visa Lounge in Youngstown. That's first weather for now. Let's take it back inside to Lennon Station.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Just ahead, Youngstown and its police union reach an agreement.
But there's nothing but disagreement between the city finance director and the city judges. The question, are there too many judges on the municipal court?
What would you expect to pay for a brand new 92 old Sierra, 15, 16,000? Listen up. Right now, for a limited time at Taylor Olds, you can purchase a brand new 1992 Sierra loaded with air, AM, FM stereo, tinted windows, and more for just $12,495. That's right, just $12,495 after rebate for a brand new Sierra and the Oldsmobile Edge Guaranteed Satisfaction Program at no extra charge. Only at Taylor Olds, Mahoning Avenue in Austintown.
Hey, Mr. New License, come on. I want to show you something. It needs some work, but it's yours if you want it. It's awesome. Of course, it probably needs new brakes, a muffler, and shocks. Don't forget to change the oil regularly. Now, you take some advice from your old grandpa. You go to Monroe. They're good people.
Monroe Muffler Brake. We fix it fast, we fix it right, for the right price.
You think your grandma and I could take it out for a spin now and then?
From one car specialist to another quickly eliminates any of their supposed savings. Just stop into any convenient Westside Tire and Service location and relax. Because with the new Tiger Pie XTM all-season radial by unit roll, your car will grip the road in mud, rain, or snow. Get the most technologically advanced tire ever made by Uniroyal, the Tiger Pie XTM. Come to the experts that specialize in your entire car. Westside Tire and Service.
The best new car value is at Crown Ford. Crown has over 75 brand new specially priced 1992 Ford Tempos direct from the factory. Get your 92 Tempo with air, fuel injection, automatic tilt steering, AM/FM stereo, and more. Backed by a 3-year bumper-to-bumper warranty, all for only $89.88 with Crown's best bottom line deal. Save thousands on the best new car value around, only at Crown Ford on the Strip in Warren.
Does Youngstown need 3 judges on its municipal court? Well, that depends on whom you ask. Some in City Hall say no.
And as Jerry Ricciuti reports, this might be a good time to find out with 2 judges away from work.
Youngstown's outspoken finance director Gary Kubik is finding himself in hot water with city judges again.
I sort of stirred up the brew again.
The latest dust-up involves published comments Kubik made concerning the appointment of County Court Judge Constant Prosanos to fill in for Judge Luke Levy, who's ill. Kubik believes one of the municipal court referees should be used instead.
Since we already pay them $40,000 a year or thereabouts with fringes, and they work part-time, if they could substitute.
Head Judge Patrick Kerrigan says he can't understand all the fuss.
We're not wasting taxpayers' monies. We're doing what's in the best interest of the city. We have an experienced, guy in there that's doing the job as judge, and he's doing it for free. What's the problem with that?
Kerrigan claims the state Supreme Court, which appointed Prosanos, wanted a sitting judge to fill in for Levy since referees cannot rule in criminal trials.
The way this town is, sometimes you think that if you had done it another way, people would have complained about that too.
Meantime, Judge Kerrigan says he's growing tired of all the complaints out of City Hall about the number of judges that sit on the municipal court bench in Youngstown. He says with the city's crime rate, they definitely need 3 judges there.
And we're very busy, and we work here full-time. It's not like it used to be. And we work here as much as anybody else in this administration does, and I'm not defensive about that in the least.
But Kubik argues the judges, who make $72,000 a year, normally sit on the bench 4 to 5 hours a day, adding despite Judge Levy's illness, one of the referees and 3rd Judge Andrew Polovischek are all on vacation this week. Still, Kubik admits his comments are only his opinion, but wonders why they anger others so much.
And any diminishing effect hurts their power base, or at least they think it does, when in fact it's just part of the team concept. I mean, everybody has to give a little.
In Youngstown, Jerry Ricciuti, 33 Eyewitness News.
Members of Youngstown's police union could vote as early as next week on a tentative contract reached today. Late this morning, union leaders met with Mayor Pat Ungaro to iron out the last few issues, which dealt mainly with contract language. They then briefly outlined the new 3-year agreement for reporters. Although the union and the city have been negotiating since last fall, it took several face-to-face meetings between the mayor and the union to work things out.
When you have lawyers involved, they do a great job, but they look at things from another point of view, but they become very cumbersome, and it makes it almost to the point where you can get so complicated you can't come to a conclusion. I think Bill and I cut through that.
While details of the contract are not being released yet, Union President Bill Blanchard says it's similar to the recent Teamsters contract with the street department. Both sides hope to have the agreement approved in the next few weeks.
The case of Sean Patton, former YSU football star, is now in the hands of a Mahoning County judge. Late today, both sides ended their arguments and turned the case over to Judge Scott Krischbaum for his decision. One of the final witnesses in the case was a former YSU football player, Josh Saunders, who came here from Kansas. He testified that he saw Patton use his hands to sexually assault a Youngstown State female student. The alleged assault happened more than a year ago in a crowded off-campus bar. Well, still ahead in Big Board Sports, the Pirates make a major trade.
But first, when we come back, we take a look at the Valley's business matters with Andrea Wood.
Don't miss the grand opening of the all-new furniture outlet store inside Valley View. Register to win great prizes and check out the area's largest selection of affordable, quality-built name-brand furniture. Sofas starting at $288. 3-piece family room sets starting at just $499. 4-piece bedroom sets from $399. Recliners and rockers starting from $159. And dinette sets from $149. For everyday low prices on quality name-brand furniture, come to the all-new furniture outlet store inside Valley View.
Jack and Mary are finally getting around to their first barbecue.
Honey, it's cold.
Just a second, dear.
But honey, it's cold.
Too bad they don't know about all the new burger and chicken sandwiches at Perkins. Each one a tremendous feast. So come on in.
Maybe you should add more lighter fluid?
Besides, it's nice and warm inside.
Sorry, Tom. We're taking you off the project.
After all the work...
Come on, Tom. At least admit it to yourself.
What am I going to do?
I don't have all the answers.
I can't believe this is happening to me.
Please, get yourself some help. You've almost lost your job. Do you want to lose your life?
Tonight we begin a new weekly feature focusing on business matters in the Mahoning and Shenango valleys.
And to do that, we welcome back a longtime friend of WYTV, Andrea Wood. She left the exciting world of television journalism to publish the Business Journal. This is serious deja vu. Andrea, welcome back.
Yes, it is, and it's awfully nice to be back, Len. In fact, it kind of feels like home.
Good.
Thank you. Business matters. It matters a lot for jobs to be